Hey guys, this is Mr. V over here, and I'll be doing a book review for The Talisman. I just want to say a few things about The Talisman to start. Is I oh I forgot. Sorry. I just so I you should know that I don't give any. I tried to give very few spoilers. If you get a spoiler, it'd be very minor, which is the reason that I actually write some notes down so I don't give spoilers. So if you see me looking down at the notes, it's just so I don't give any spoilers out. So, the Talisman. I'll just give a brief introduction on what the Talisman is, and then we will talk about my impressions of it. So, The Talisman is a book about a kid named Jack Sawyer. He's, I think, 12 years old. And his mother, who I think she was famous at one, or she was famous at one point, has become very sick. And he wants to find some way to help her, almost like a cure to help her. And fairly early in the book, there's a guy, his name is Speedy Parker, tells him that he needs to go west and that it can help if he goes west. Something that's very interesting about this book is that the Jack Sawyer, he can, they call it flipping. He can flip worlds or flip universes, flip to a different universe. And what that means is he just can go to a parallel universe or a parallel world where things are somewhat the same, but there are other things that are very different. And he can flip between those. And he can go to that. They call the other place the territories. He can go to that world, or he can come back to the American territories. That's what they call it in the book. So he can flip. And, that's a very interesting concept, which I will go much more in depth about in my review. But the only thing that he has heard to help his sick mother is go west to find the talisman. And that is basically the premise of the book. So, um, I have been looking forward to reading this book for a while. It's been on a wish list of mine, and I wanted to read this book for a while. Uh, and because I'm reading the Dark Tower series, if you guys want to see anything about it, you guys can check my other videos out. But I've been reading the Dark Tower series right now, and I heard that the Talisman can kind of link to the Dark Tower a little bit. So I wanted to read it. So that's why, again, this has been on my wish list for a while. But I was actually disappointed overall in the book. I'm not saying it's bad, but overall I was disappointed. And again, I'll go much more in depth right now. But yeah, I was a little disappointed. First, let me say that there are some really fun aspects of the book. One of the things is that, as I said, he can flip to like an alternate universe or alternate world. And it's very fun because there are some things that are the same, and then there are some things that are very different. So it's just kind of fun differences when you see that and, you read it. And the um, things are, as I said, there's fun differences that, like, maybe, you know, a person will look the same, but then they eat very different food. Or, you know, he doesn't know the monetary system of that universe or world. And it's just seeing, he's figuring it out. And it kind of makes you feel a little bit comfortable in the world you live in because it's like he's trying to figure that stuff out. And you're just like, wow, that would be a difficult situation to be just put to a completely different world or different universe and not know things, not know the food, not know uh, what the people are like there, those types of things. And that's why it kind of makes you feel comfortable at your home, but also it's a very fun element. And um, a perfect example is, and again, this is just it would be a minor spoiler, is that at one point, because he can flip back and forth, he brings someone from what they call the territories, another universe, he brings them back to his own world. And that other person that he brings back is so confused and so lost with our everyday world that we live in today. Like, that person isn't familiar with cars or electricity and things like that, and the person gets scared because he has never seen it ever. And it makes you really think about that stuff a lot more in depth. So it is really cool seeing that. And it's like, what's comfortable to us may not be comfortable to someone that's in another universe, and be vice versa. We wouldn't be comfortable if we went somewhere else. You never know. And so that is a super fun element. And he goes in depth about that. The thing that is tough, these are some of the areas that are a little bit tough, is I felt this book took a little while to get going. What I mean by get going is, like, what the book is about just by reading the book jacket, or reading just what the book is about online. And it takes a little while to get going because you already know this stuff. I thought that it didn't really get going until about anywhere from 30 to 40% of the book in. That's when it really started to get going, and then it became a lot more fun. Of course, in that first, like, 30 to 40%, there are still things that are happening in between, and some fun things that happen in between. But it did take a little while for it to truly get going beyond what you could read on the book jacket type of thing. There are only very minor things. And the reason I put that as a tough aspect is because this is a fairly long book. I don't remember the exact, but it's like anywhere from like 800 to 900 pages. So, trying to get like through 30% of the book with only knowing, like, doing minor things before you really get to go beyond just what the description of the book is. Because sometimes it can be difficult. It's not easy reading 200, 250 pages before it really starts to get going. What I mean by really starts to get going is, again, there are many small elements that are entertaining up to that point. But I mean, like, really get going and really go beyond just the book jacket and small aspects. So, that was one part that turned me off a little bit. And it could be, I should have commented at the very beginning of this video, there's two authors. It was Stephen King and Peter Straub. They wrote this together. And I don't know who wrote what. Maybe it took a little while to get going because there was two authors. Maybe they went, who knows? I don't know who wrote what. Because, yes, the next part was that, as I said, it takes a little while to get going, and that's why I feel some parts drag a bit. Stephen King sometimes is known for that. He's known to, like, go overboard. He is always known for great character development and great scene development. And I, having read over 20 of his books, I agree, like, I love his character and scene development. But I agree with many people, and I've seen it, or I've read it myself, that sometimes he goes a little overboard. That, he will go too far in depth. And, there were areas that seemed to drag a bit. I don't know why. I don't know if it was just his style, or if it was because there was two authors that they kind of stretched it out a bit, and they were like, they kept wanting to add more and more. And I don't know the reason. As I said, I don't know who wrote what part or what happened for that collaboration. But yeah, there were some parts that seemed to drag a bit, and that could be the reason that it took a little while for it to get going, because they went too far in depth for some of the character development. And some of the areas that were definitely difficult were that while he had some great characters in there, sometimes he would give a decent amount of pages to, like, a character development. Like, you would give, anywhere from 100, 120 to certain characters, and then all of a sudden they're just gone. And then they're not in the rest of the book. That has happened in other books. And I know that, and that some of those scenes are still great, or those characters are still great, but they would be developing it. You would start to really get to know who the character is. and then the character's just gone. You know, there were many reasons why. I will not go in depth about why, but it would just be like you start to get to know the character. He had really devoted a lot to developing that character, and then it just didn't. The character's just gone. So maybe that's why it's stressed out so many pages. Um, and another part that was very difficult for me was, maybe it's just my personal impressions of it, was some parts of the book were pretty confusing. What do you mean by confusing? And is that sometimes I had to like read, like I didn't understand fully what was going on. I had a general sense of the scene, but I didn't get what was fully going on. And then like 10 pages after, I would be like, oh, now I get the full scene. I get what's going on. I get what Jack Sawyer is doing. I get why he's doing, you know. And I know sometimes that can be for like almost like the drama aspect to make it better. But sometimes I felt it was very unnecessary. Maybe I was the only one that was confused at certain points. Maybe other people weren't. But there were a decent amount of segments, and there again, it could be because there was two authors that maybe they each wrote a segment and tried to find a way to like weave it together, you know, and that could be a factor. So I don't know why. And as I said, it was the page length, because this is 800 or 900 pages. So this is a pretty hefty book. I don't have the book with me because I read it on the Kindle, but when you see at the store, you can see it's a pretty hefty book. So that, you know, that can be a difficult aspect as well. But you can saw again, it still is a great story. The story, I love the story. And I did love, you know, like some of the stuff about the multi-universes and like him flipping and going back and forth, and, you know, all that stuff is very fun. But I just thought that, you know, he dragged a little too much, and that some parts were confusing, but, you know, the dragging part was the biggest aspect, because I think it was about 900 pages. I put it as a below average 900 page book, whereas I think it would have been a phenomenal like 500 page book if they had cut out certain things. So I would rate this book. I always rate books on a scale of 0 to 10. 0 being horrible, 5 is average, and 10 being phenomenal, meaning like go get that book right now. Very few books make it into the 10 category, just like very few make it into the 0 category. But again, 0 is horrible, 5 is average, 10 is absolutely phenomenal. Get the book right now type. I would rank this book anywhere from a 4 to a 4.5. I know a 5 is average. So you can see I'm ranking it below average. And you just heard before that I think I'm ranking it below average purely due to the page length, because I like the story. I thought it was a great story. I liked some of the parts about the multi-universe thing. You know, I liked all those factors, but I think just having the page length in terms of it dragging too much. I don't mind there being a longer book, but that some sections just dragged too much to where that's why I'm ranking it below average. I'd rank it like a 4 to a 4.5. I know many people put this as like a top tier book. To me, I put it as below average. Just barely, but just below average. If you have a disagreement or you have any comments, please comment below. I hope you click the subscribe button. Again, if you have any questions or anything, comment below. But thank you for watching this video. Don't forget, this is Mr. V. Again, thank you.